This one was
So
funny.
we are live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from warm, sunny everywhere. Always warm,
Hi
always
everyone.
sunny, and also always everywhere. Hi, everyone. It's our town hall number 19, and nobody has the link yet. Therefore, nobody will be here unless they are camping our channel. This is usually a clever thing to do. Okay. Well, just have that here. It should be. Hope everyone is doing well. It's been an exciting few weeks. I hope everyone had a nice and happy New Year, and a great holiday season. How are you doing, Felsmaker and Mark?
All good, all good. I just traveled 10 hours today, well, kind of this night, so I'm a bit sleep deprived, but after that I'll probably go back to sleeping. Should be good.
Well, that must be exhausting. Travel can be, especially when don't get enough rest in between. Well, we're happy to have you on.
And I'm all good. Family's good. Baby's having some kind of a sleep problem the past week or something. He's been waking up in the middle of the night a lot, but we're good.
It's part of the beautiful thing called parenting.
Yep.
So we have an exciting release and also featuring a brand new glamorous cover page for the town hall, which will be featuring. Big thanks to our marketing team. Thank you, Rachel. That's a fancy way of saying Rachel. Um, Hi everyone. Hi JPS. Hi Eric Ritter, Escobar, Miran, Luke, Troy. Hi Escobar. Let's have the updated roadmap? Did we promise one? Well, we have updates in general, so that's good. It's good to have everyone here again. Always familiar faces, but that's also excellent to see. So without further ado, this is a recorded session, so I suppose people joining later can still catch up. We have an interesting town hall. This time we have a few high level, let's say, general updates. We go through the slides. We have a few, let's say, footage releases. Uh, I hope you guys will enjoy, as well as some development updates, which will also follow after. So we have what's happening today. We're going to have some update on the tables progress, a little bit of what to expect on the social release. We're going to share uh, some screenshots of that. We're going to be sharing the past winners of the Christmas raffle prizes. Um, just to have a full list basically shown of that. And then our AMA. And without further ado, so this is a reveal or a release, let's say, of a progress update of some of the tables updates. I hope this video does it justice. We'll share it in higher resolution or quality afterwards. So one of the main things you see here is that you actually start on the outside, and then only when you go in, you go in. But then we also have a new angle that we believe better highlights the horses, can better kind of show the body colors and paintings, etc. So this was a small change that was added in. You see that there's this configurator tab where you can configure the horses. It's very close to a live demo. There's been very, very minimal editing, as you guys can see. So it takes you to this. Changing the jockey would not change because there's a skin applied. These are actual wallet loaded skins. There's a little bit of loading time as expected with the 3D asset, but then you can see the also the slight moment where it disappears and then reappears. Something we're aware of, obviously. So this is a deluxe skin showing how you can use it just as a jockey skin if you do it from the jockey skin part. So this actually took a little bit more time loading, but then just shows you how the configurator works here. And then you just go to the deluxe skin tab and load the complete set. So this is actual loading time, I would say. This will actually take a bit longer. And then we can switch to none. And you're back. So we just wanted to share this update on what we have working already.
So quickly, a little few things we're working on. We're working on prefetching the skins a bit better so that the loading times are a bit less. And I found a format for the textures which would make the textures way smaller while maintaining quality. Some things like 9 to 10 times smaller. And a lot of the loading time is fetching the textures. So hopefully everything will be much faster once that kicks in. The configurator will go out as it is, with a few bugs ironed out. But this update, when it gets published, will do a lot of difference. So that'll be a good like all around update.
Also, the loading speed optimizations for the overall scene are already in effect in the version that we have. So this takes a good, let's say, 20 to 30 seconds to load instead of 3 minutes, which is already a big improvement. And there is still a bit more room to optimize for the scene loading. So it's meant to be even faster than this. It's just a normal progress in how this goes. Onto the social. So the social release, as you guys can see here, is mainly 3 tabs. There's friends, there's my guild, there's all guilds. Friend list shows you, obviously, this name would eventually be replaced with actual stable names. We also already have clarity on how that will be implemented, as well as profile pictures. This is also a placeholder. And then these are buttons to chat. Some of these are also the actual buttons themselves will need to be replaced. But in general, the main function is actually the chat itself. I didn't show a screenshot of this here, but this is actually also live. This is not a mock-up or a UI. It's an actual working page. This is a My Guild tab, and then it shows you the same list of the members, and then you can see the owner. You can chat with the owner because this user is actually the second user. It shows you the number of members. There's the in-guild chat, and this is an example of the in-guild chat working. There are still, again, quality of life improvements, format, etc. But in general, having this actually work is great. And it's still being tested just to make sure that all the functions are practical and functioning well. So this is the other, I would say, preview or progress update. Just to share kind of where we are on the social release, which is our next release. And then on the development side, I would say, in addition to this, it's mainly focused on ironing this out, as well as laying the final parts of the, let's say, groundwork for actually implementing the racing, whether it be the racing viewer itself, or whether it's the racing blockchain code, or whether it's the racing screens. So that is obviously the next part after this release. We have the artist team fully mobilized to work on the racetracks. So we used to have some of the members of the art team focused more on the models, the skins, the seasonal skins, etc. But that has now been completely focused on the racetracks, just to make sure we have everything and basically ready for that racing release. Um, that includes working on buildings, more props, more work on the textures for the different parts of the racetracks, etc. So that's from the art side of things. Nick, if maybe you can give us a little bit of a just a high level overview on the dev side, what's being worked on right now.
Yeah. So the configurator is technically feature complete, meaning which it can do everything it should be able to do. Skins are displayed for horses and jockeys. You can go to a little place to see the jockeys. And the scene is already deployed on our internal beta website, and we're clicking around on it and playing with it. There are a few little problems that we're finding out as we're testing. So, like I said, we want to improve the prefetch of the skins and models so that the loading are a bit smoother, a bit faster. There's a few camera movements when you move around the stables. Sometimes you get stuck. So that's a bug that we know and we know how to fix. So we're fixing it. And some of the jockey textures were not loaded correctly when our mods finally got into the internal beta. They were using a lot of different jockeys. Troy in particular has a lot of jockeys, and anyway, some of our mods have a lot of jockeys, and the colors were wrong. So there's a bug with the jockey texture colors. So we're just fixing that, also addressing that. So it's just making sure all the jockeys are displayed with their accurate color. One of them was supposed to be gold and wasn't, and triggered one of our. But that's okay. That's why we test. So that's perfect. So we're just fixing a few textures mix-ups, but that's not a feature issue or something big. It's just getting things done right. Then on the social release, we're also technically feature complete. The only thing we were missing was in guild chat. Now we're playing around with it and finding as many bugs as we can. So we're finding little things here and there that we're fixing, but we're close to being able to release the whole thing. So the plan is to release the configurator and the social release as our second release. That would be the big official second release. It will be released in beta mode to bang on it and find out the few bugs that we haven't found before actually showing you, and then we'll get that into production, so on the full website, and then we'll get something else in the beta uh, work being started on the racing and stuff like that. So that's how that will go through. We're getting close to a beta for the social and the configurator. We're doing the internal beta. We've been doing the internal beta for weeks, actually, and getting stuff actually live and banging on it to make sure that everything is okay. On the stuff that you guys don't see at all, so blockchain dev, the indexer is like 90% complete. So after the indexer, we'll get work started on the Oracle. Indexer gathers the changes to the metadata. Oracle emits changes to the blockchain. The Oracle was kind of way simpler because there was less R&D to go into it. The indexer had a lot of R&D. We were figuring out a lot of stuff as we were doing it. So we did that one first because it was more uncertain, as all R&D is uncertain. So that's not a bad thing. We just wanted to get that out of the way so that we could know where we stood on everything. So the indexer is nearly complete. And we've been doing a lot of prep work and design work for the racing smart contract, but also just the transaction design of the whole thing. There's a lot of little interactions that you're going to do with that contract. And we've mapped out the details of the code design really of the whole smart contract and transaction is 95 to 98%. Like we're just ironing out a few things. So coding will actually start for the racing smart contract and the transaction design very soon. That's a big part of the racing release, so next release. But at least we know exactly where we're going now. We've worked through in the design a lot of little questions we had, and we know what feature we want. So that's all coming together very neatly. Planning is a big part of it. Figuring out the way forward is a big part of it. So that's already very good. So I think that's, yeah, a high level. That's all for dev.
Perfect. Thanks, Nick. That's great, and it's also great. I think chance for me to segue a little bit on just a little bit on the planning side and envisioning. So this also is another point that we wanted to share in general is, as you guys know, the white paper that we have is very elaborate, but it also does leave a few gaps here and there about game design details that we know everyone is excited to know. Things like how many types of races will be supported immediately, what are the variations, how much will it cost to enter a race. These questions that we've been getting into AMAs all the time, things like breeding fees, what are those going to look like, what are the conditions, what do you get when this and that happens. So obviously we intentionally kept a bunch of that open a little bit just so we have room to really pivot and move around depending on what really can be done and also what should be done. But that's also now reaching a stage where we really are finalizing all of these details just because when we are developing all of this, we can't really leave things open. But also in that regard, what Nick was mentioning on smart contract design of racing, etc., it also meant basically ensuring that the different types of conditions we want for races, what are the entry conditions, what are the winning conditions, what are the prize types, etc., were all looked at, and also the interesting questions of how would the blockchain handle if this happens or that happens? How do you verify and validate whether this is correct or not, and so on and so forth. So that has been going on, and in this regard, we also mentioned in our previous town hall, which was the 1 year anniversary, we referred to a sale, and that is expected to be coming up. So that sale details are being ironed out. Obviously, we have always shared that if we do a sale after the point collection, it would need to be something substantial. So something that actually has substance and has a use in our system and not something that is vague. So we are ironing out the details of that, but we hope it will be interesting to the all of the pioneer holders and also future comers into the platform. So we'll be sharing a little bit more on that, but it is related also to ironing out these details of the game design. So with that out of the way, the next slide would be Mark. Maybe you wanna go over the skin.
Sure. So, as you have probably have seen from the announcements, we had a new skin that was created for the obvious holiday around us, which is the Christmas. We had 4 of them raffled in our big Christmas raffle. And I think, if I remember correctly, we had one also given away during the stream that Fahad attended with Cardano Tor. So that means that out of the 20, because we really wanted to make it limited and deluxe, 5 are already in the hands of people. The other 15 are with us. We are, well, first of all, we are very well aware that Christmas is gone, right? So that's over, but there will be another one and then another one. So we don't have yet exact plan, but we felt like we might not want to, release all 20 this Christmas. We will keep some for later. We might still do 1 or 2 here and there, like some random raffles, even if it's not within the holiday period. It still is a unique and really cool skin. So stay tuned. There might be some opportunities to get those skins still in the coming weeks, or next Christmas, right? So that's something to keep in mind about the skins. And I was already mentioning it. We had the 12 Day of Christmas raffle. Thank you everyone for participation. I think it went overall very well. I think as always, we listened to community. We started with making it fully open, but then we also realized that we need to have some of those raffles only for our holders, because otherwise, obviously, we might not be giving them the way to people who actually want to be a part of equine community, which is also fine to some extent. Both options are fine. So we did a mix. We had 12 winners. All of them received their prizes. It was a mix of horses, jockeys, skins, including, as I said, those 4 super deluxe Santa and Reindeer skins. So those are out. Congrats again to all who won. Obviously, that was a great opportunity to have a bit of a season of giving. but that doesn't mean we'll not have a raffles like that in the future. We definitely will, because we felt like it's a fun activity to have. We don't have any particular event around, or anything like that. Obviously, we are coming up for a Chinese New Year at the end of January. Who knows? Maybe we'll do something small related to that, but it will be more of a surprise at this stage. We'll obviously update you on Twitter and Discord as we always do. And then, New Year is here, and we are back with the Underground Invitationals. As we said, we will continue doing this fun community event because uh, we think it's something that the community is enjoying based on your feedback, and it's something that keeps us entertained while the game is being developed. Um, in terms of the details for this one, we will have 4 classes. The 120 and lower, 121 to 135, 136 to 150, and 151 plus. And yes, we heard the feedback that the 151 plus is a little bit too stacked. And obviously, the horses with 151 would have a hard time breaking through with those 170, 180, 190. We will keep it this way because it has been already announced. Actually, moving forward, we will probably anyway split the amount of classes that we do in one event, because 4 is a bit much. 5 would be just too much, to be honest, just from the execution perspective. So what we will, in the next ones, we'll probably indeed separate 151 to maybe 169 and then 170 plus. Uh, as always, we are experimenting. We'll see what happens. As you can see, even here, we changed a little bit the ranges versus what was happening last year. I think it's also showing us, obviously, that the idea that we had, for the main game, which is having 5 classes, although they might not necessarily be connected with the actual total points, because this is just for the
For
fun
the
game
steps.
created by Eustacia. But yeah, 5 probably gives more variability, which is good. For this qualifier, as always, for this event, as always, the qualifier will be run by the mods on the Discord. No one else. There'll be one class for of each per day. So we will have 4 days of qualifiers for 4 classes. 2 laps in the rain this time as a conditions. So keep that in mind when you're submitting your horses. And the winning horses will be ineligible to race the next month. I think this is something we discuss as a new a bit of a change. And yeah, if you go to the next slide, Fahad, just to talk about the specific dates. So so the qualifier will be happening in the last week of January, and then the final, as we will stream on YouTube, will be happening on Sunday on the 29th. It's going to be 2 p.m. UTC as always, and the prizes will be same as we did last year. Same conditions, so all the qualifying horses will be run in the same conditions. And I think that's it from the marketing side.
Perfect, thanks.
Okay. Yeah, I can answer this one as we are moving to the AMEA. Obviously, as always, feel free to put your questions here in the chat or in the Discord. We are always happy to answer any question live, but we gathered some questions from what we already had. So the first question was how to qualify for the invitational. So as we mentioned, we ran qualifiers on the selected dates. There will be multiple races throughout the date. Our mod team covers 24 hours in a day because we have the team across the world, similar to our founders team. So there will be an announcement that race is coming. Obviously, first 7 will get into the race. So it is a little bit about being speedy, but usually, if you are around the Discord on those days, it's usually possible. Just be ready in a sense that you know which horse you want to enter, so you don't spend too much time on that. Of course, you can also play with your horses in the Lovelace Downs channel, to practice and see how your horses perform. Keep in mind that Lovelace Downs is a fan-made game. It does not take into account all of the horses' stats. It doesn't take the hidden stats. Obviously, it uses a very simplified but cute graphics, which is not what the final game will look like, and it's not using our racing engine, right? So this is again fun activity, side activity that we are very grateful for Eustacia for building for the community. But just wanted to add this one small comment as well as a reminder, because we get this question every single time we run this event.
Is this how the actual game looks? OMG. It's the usual reaction. But yeah, lots of love to Stacia. I think having this as an option for a community event is absolutely beautiful. Are there plans on having a lobby with a voice chat during races? Maker, Nick, do we have plans on having a lobby with a voice chat during the races?
We don't have plans for that. I would highly recommend just doing that on Discord. We can create a few channels on Discord so that for certain races we can try to arrange something, but I would do that on Discord. Everything else would be a lot of duplicated effort trying to do something that Discord will do way better than us. So I don't think that's
could simply be a channel that's called Racing Now.
Yeah, or a few like race 1, race 2, race 3, and say what like to identify which races we're talking about here. But I would simply do a few voice chat in Discord. If you guys find that this is really letting you down and there's a good reason for it, we'll consider it for a later version. But to me, that's a duplicated effort. That'd be like asking me if we're gonna add email. We're not. Like, use your email. Some things have great apps already doing that, so we're not trying to recode everything.
It's a good idea. We should have an equine email. We know that intra-guild chats will be possible. Will there be a way to chat inter-guild? And we mean between guilds specifically, not just a public chat, but a guild to guild line, only accessible by one member of the guild in order to streamline comms between guilds. So this is a letter from myself as the owner of Guild 1, submitting a letter to the owner of Guild number 2. I mean, it's interesting, but at the same time, I can imagine that this is still a little bit maybe complex and beyond the original, let's say, vision of features for a guild. It is an interesting concept, I guess.
I would say guilds and friends are really adding value in this game, because you want to keep track. For friends, you want to keep track easily of their stable, their wins, their losses. If you go into race results, you want to be able to see your friends easily. Same thing for guild members. You want to be able to do guild events or guild related prestige, anything, guild related stuff. But even guild chat was an extra feature that was, you could have just built a guild chat in Discord and not screwed with your experience of equine. So there's a lot of game mechanics that go into guilds and friends that was necessary. Guild chat was like a little bonus. I don't inter-guild might not be hard to do, so we can look into it, but like, it's not. I think that was already duplicated effort a bit to do the chat into equine, so I'll think about it. We're trying to streamline really going to the game, right? Racing and breeding is what we want to get out of here. So I'll keep that in mind as a nice to have, and I'll look into it to see if that is not like a really easy win. Since we did inter-guild, maybe inter-guild is easy. I'll look at the code. But yeah, it's not in my necessary super high priority thing.
You guys are giving me ideas. It's like guild versus guild challenge. I challenge you, and I place this in the pool of rewards against your guild.
But that's game mechanics. That's good. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, version 5. Well, let's see where that goes. I'm happy to see Escobar, one of our supporters, saying I'm planning to stream. So that was a response to the voice chat during races. That's one of the things. Thing I want to shout in the last 400. That's part of the excitement. It's meant to be an experience where you get to share the social experience of cheering for your horses, or your friends' horses, or your enemies' horses. But yeah, we don't have the list. Um, we're interested to learn about the possible minting of stud coupons. It was discussed a bit in the Discord. Can you expand on this concept if it's being considered? If it is being considered, why? What is the catalyst for such a concept? How do you see it working? It's a great question. If you allow me, friends, maybe I'll start, and then I'll have you maybe expand on the technicality of this. But why it is being considered? The reason is number one, we are working on optimizing our work on efficiency and also to make sure that we can deliver what we promised to deliver. And one of the main things that were actually a very large feature was we basically hoped to build a bespoke marketplace, but then that proved to be a very, very large project in and of itself. So for the sake of maximizing, let's say, our focus on what's the most valuable, we're thinking of why we needed the marketplace in the first place. And one of the main things was to allow people to be able to buy stud offers. Obviously, breeding within your own stable could be simplified and done within the stable. But then, if you want to go and shop for offers for stud owners, that's a feature that we promised. And to do that, we figured that you might need a marketplace with its own filtering process, etc. Now, if we are not to do a marketplace, then that function would need to be replaced with an alternative where people can still provide their stud service with the stallions they own, the breeding stallions. And for that to work, there was this very clever alternative, I would say, that was come up by Fence Baker. And it's this idea of a stud voucher or a stud coupon. And that was why it is being considered, and I would say even the catalyst. But then thinking beyond this, we realized that it's not only a simplification and also let's say optimization of effort, but also we realized that it comes with an added, let's say, side effect or bonus of decentralization, which is basically finding, let's say, a stud voucher or a stud coupon, or selling or listing or auctioning, etc., becomes not only restricted to a platform, but rather you can actually expand this function to work on any interface, any marketplace that's out there. You can auction it, you can raffle it, you can really do whatever you want, and that is actually a bonus that is, I think, worth keeping when it's possible. First speaker, if you can maybe elaborate on how we see it working, or if you want to add to it, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna repeat a few things that you said. Yeah. um, yeah. So basically, on the dev side, like as a project manager, let's say, I would say that it removes two whole smart contracts and smart contract audits from this project. The whole breeding smart contract and the whole marketplace smart contract. And marketplaces, I mean, we've seen that some projects do only marketplaces, and it's a huge project, right? So removing the marketplace and the breeding smart contract from the game, it removes a lot of dev work and a lot of time and a lot of money from the budget. So that was just a good decision. And on the budget side, and then on the feature side, like Fahad said, we're pretty much on par. Like, we didn't remove any features from this. You still get that you can reproduce your stud a certain time, a certain number of times per month. You can sell your studding, um, and uh, and then, like Fahad said, we kind of gain a little thing where the stud coupons are regular NFTs, and then you just profit from it being able to be set on any marketplace, any auction mechanism, anything that people come up with, and people that spend their whole time building marketplaces or auction houses, then you can use that to sell your stud coupons. So it becomes a regular NFT. So it removes a lot of, it allows us to really focus on the game and what we want to offer you guys as an added value, rather than duplicating stuff that already exists from people that spend a lot of effort specializing in those things. So So that's really good. And then we're still going to make sure that you can only emit a certain number of coupons per month, and that you cannot accumulate. So coupons will not be forever; they will last for the month, and then um, we're going to allow. There's a recycling mechanism where you can make them good for next month instead, but it's the same limitations of let's say for now we said 5, but let's say 5 per month. And if you don't use them, they don't carry over. You have to change them for next month, and they're only good for a month. So that's the same mechanism as the smart contract without the smart contract. So it's the NFT instead that gives you this functionality. And then when you breed, you just take your coupon and your mare, and you make a breeding transaction. So it's not a smart contract again. So that removed a lot of the complexity of the workflow. Um, those were things we needed because they were fancy, but it's not necessary at all to give you the same experience. Where when you breed in the game, the it will not be a voucher, right? You will see the stallion, and you will see the mare, and it will be a breeding event using the voucher, right? So the experience of the breeding will be the same. So there was really no reason. Once I sat back and thought about it, I was like, how can I optimize this? And especially smart contract audits. Um, Ask around. It's horrible. It takes a lot of time and costs a lot of money and adds a lot of uncertainty to any pipeline, and that could delay us for a lot of time. So now we've got a single audit for the racing smart contract, which I think is absolutely necessary. This cannot be removed. The races have to be a smart contract. We designed that, and that's still going to be done that way. Your horses are locked in there, and will come back to you. So that's all got to be very guaranteed, very secure, blockchain wise, and everything. So we're gonna do that perfectly right. But yeah, breeding and marketplace were really, I think, when I think about it now, unnecessary, and the new design I think is way more streamlined and allows us to focus on the right things. If I
Yeah,
didn't
and then
explain any, like I'm not explaining the fees right, Fahad, like maybe you can, or I don't know how much we want to commit to anything because there's no numbers that are fixed in stone right now. But there's gonna
yeah,
be
well,
yeah.
yeah, still the same because well, the breeding fee is gonna be by the male owner who's gonna do that breeding process, and then the stud or the stallion owner who's selling that stud coupon will basically be setting his price on the NFT itself when they sell it. So that is the studding service charge that they want to charge. So then the buyer of that coupon can come back and use that instead of their own stallion, and that's how you get to do breeding using somebody as a stallion. So you've already paid the stud owner to get their voucher, and then you use it in the platform. So that's it's actually a pretty, let's say, simplified user experience. It's still the same as you call it, on par when it comes to feature and what it gives you. It's only that there's a bit a part that's kind of externalized, but it kind of really doesn't really compromise the experience and adds some benefits of it being a little bit more. I feel that there could be an interesting dynamic when it comes to how people handle these because technically you'd be able to also maybe buy a stud coupon instead of using it to resell it to someone else, which is not the intended, let's say, immediate design or why we are doing it, but it becomes a side effect that is not necessarily evil or problematic. Um, so that's that. But I'll also take a second and say I'm very proud of us being with this blockchain mindset. And when we think of solutions, we try to always think fairly with regards to what the blockchain can and should do and how we can utilize it and leverage it to our advantage and benefit. Especially when I see some other, let's say, competitors without mentioning names, and they don't need to be spicy here, but um, they seem to be, for example, completely omitting a lot of blockchain elements and doing things very, very centralized and off-chain, whereas it seems to me like it doesn't make sense to be a blockchain or NFT game when you're not really utilizing the blockchain where it's valuable. So that's where we try to keep things as decentralized as possible when we can to keep true NFT ownership all throughout. So when you own a horse, even if it's 5 years into its career, you still own it. You can still trade it halfway in the middle. You can decide when to switch it to breeding or when back, or sorry, not back, but basically when to trade that somewhere down the road, etc. So I think that's something I'm very proud of, and that we maintain that because we didn't just use the blockchain to sell our NFTs, but because it is truly and genuinely a game that is built for the blockchain, using the blockchain as its as one of its main technologies. So that is a comment I had to make at this point. So, will we be able to see horse behavior pre-race? For example, before the racing gates. We know that watching horse performance in racing is important. What about behavior pre-race? Will spectators and owners be able to observe horse behavior prior to the race in the paddock, or as they move from paddock to the gates, etc.? That would be an interesting level of depth. I will say right now in its simplistic form, and in general, our usual reference, I would say, to the as you guys know, the virtual racehorse or blockchain racehorse genre is relatively young with few games in there. Then we also look at the non-blockchain or the traditional video games that have horses. They have their own different models. So we usually look at that model as a first reference. And usually it is much more simplified, as in the horse behavior is what it does in the race. And then that model also usually implies that the first race that a horse gets is actually heavily discounted or is for free. For example, that the first race is actually for free but without a prize, but then you get to see some horse behavior without really incurring, let's say, a cost or a challenge. So that is our initial, let's say, design or plan, is that you get to do an early race or the first races that will help you kind of identify what the horse does. Um, but let's say a feature where you get to see them and intricacies in the paddock or in the stable. Right now, that is not developed. In the future, that might be an interesting addition where you get to at least infer some performance. We know that that would be the most realistic, but I think at this stage, at least, that level of depth is not being built. What is the /16 count for training? Help us understand more about the 16 count. That is the age from when you're 2 years old, which is the first time you can race as a horse, until the age that the horse passes away, which is 18. So 16 is 18 minus 2 to not count the first 2 years. So those are the 16 years that you could possibly train, and that is what the full /16 count means. Do all horses react to training the same way, or do some have a trainability stat? It's an interesting question. Could trainability be a stat that's considered more of a mental test, so not shown but must be discovered, or will all horses react to training the same way? I believe the way that training is envisaged, and without telling away too much, is there should be a bit of a level of, let's say, surprise element. So that would be basically how effective the training is, etc. But whether trainability is something that's inherited or not, or whether that potential, for example, is something that's inherited or not, we don't want to give away immediately, and maybe actually leave to the community to figure out. But I think it's a good question. It's interesting that people are thinking about this. Will bundling horses jockey skins be possible within the equine marketplace? Well, that kind of is a trick question, because as of right now, the equine marketplace is, I would say, status pending. It is no longer in the immediate, let's say, release plans. We are leaving it until a future release when the platform is much more stable. Excuse the pun, these come up all the time. But yeah, it's not an immediate, I would say, feature. So as substantial as this is, on the other hand, the fact that bundling is also already available in different, let's say, marketplaces that are being built in general, then that would already be a feature that's there. So we always need to think of any feature we add is how much value does it bring and how much value does it give to the community. So if a feature is already possible to fulfill with third party, let's say third party solutions, then it is definitely better to have a bespoke, customized experience, but it doesn't become an immediate priority at this stage. And if
Well,
we also
yeah,
set this, go ahead, Cedric.
Well, right now bundling cannot be done with different policy IDs. So right now bundling horses, jockeys, and skin, let's say on JPEG Store, could not be used as far as I know. Uh, I don't see why bundling could not be done with multiple verified policy IDs, let's say in the same bundle. So that's definitely something that will happen. Whereas within JPEG Store or other marketplaces that are coming along. So I don't see that. I see that being possible in the near future. Though bundling like horses, jockeys, and skin, we bundle them in the initial sale to give you guys like a bundle exactly. But those don't necessarily like happen to go together. Uh, like necessarily, like there's no skins for one horse. The skins go on anything. The jockeys go on anything. You could find a really good horse jockey match that you could want to sell as a bundle. I guess that would be very interesting. Um, so yeah, no, I would say the other marketplaces, the decentralized marketplaces out there, will for sure give you that feature in the future. And I know auction houses for sure you can already do that. You can bundle whatever you want. So you could bundle a horse with a jockey that are known to go very well together. Let's say, so you could do that already for auctions.
Yeah, and I think we also said this in the first anniversary stream, and we also had a few discussions with some interested parties. But in general, it is also an open invitation for anyone who wants to build a horse or equine marketplace. It's if the features are decentralized, if horses are meant to be NFTs that are separate, jockeys, skins, if even the stud or breeding coupons are NFTs, then basically somebody could also build, let's say, a marketplace that is a bespoke experience that is related to horses, to equine horses in general, and could be more customized. You guys might remember from the first days NFT Jam had built a lot of, let's say, customizations for showing the stats. I wonder where they are now. I hope they are doing well. But I remember that being an interesting, let's say, experiment, seeing how a decentralized platform would cater to such a game. So I think there is definitely interest in that, as well as we also have been asked many times about betting platforms. So um, we basically, the way we are building things and why we're doing it on blockchain is that we are able to allow these platforms to build their own things without having to need us. What we do, or everyone who is planning to build for ecoin, is we then need to have basically a data center or a place where data center is probably a bad word, but a reference where all the equine, let's say, platform integrators know how to find the data, which policy IDs, which Oracle addresses, how to access indexer data, etc., etc. These kind of details would be interesting to all of the integrators who would be either making analytics, betting, gambling, um, on the equine races, as well as marketplace customization. I think that is something that we can and plan to provide.
Do we have okay the description?
One more.
Can I take one from Discord quickly?
Yeah.
There's from 108 Stitches, there's the suggestion: treat the stud coupons like a sperm bank, so either a stud can actually mate with a mare 5 times a year, or the owner could choose to freeze the stud sperm in the form of a minted coupon. Uh, so basically, it would like the breeding vouchers. Like I don't like the term sperm bank because it's not like that in the equine world, in the actual horse world. So we say breeding vouchers as if the stallion literally goes over to your mare and covers her at the time of breeding, but doesn't matter. Okay, he's saying maybe the coupons could last forever so that you could be speculated over at a later time and stuff like that, but remain true to the limit of 5. We thought about the coupons, of course, uh, lasting forever, and then the moment that some of them get used, you can emit new ones. But there's a real danger with that, which is that let's say you emit 5 coupons, really early, somebody buys all of them and never uses them, and now you can never breed again for the life of your horse forever. So somebody could just block you from breeding, and that's like extremely annoying and unacceptable, and there would be no way to prevent that. So that's why we made, for now in our design, breeding voucher last for the year, and are invalidated at the end of the year, and you have to recycle them into the new year, as the owner, because that prevents people from locking you out of breeding. So it's got to be done for this feature to work with NFTs. It has to be um, time stamped into like the year that you're into.
Yeah, the other part is if you instead don't assume that there is a limit um, of active ones available, then somebody could also be hoarding basically five for every year of their horse. So that could be a max of, if I'm not mistaken, 15 years times five. So that's like 75. I hope my math is not
Yeah,
completely
that's if we
off.
don't limit the number of simultaneous NFTs, then yeah, you could emit 5 per year and just like have a bunch of, that would be like a
Yeah, but
sperm bank
then
instead of breeding vouchers.
which maybe is also part of that concept or suggestion. But then, if we assess that from a game design point of view and we look at the game theory, then that really risks, for example, let's say a massive pile of, let's say, stacked vouchers that are left aside, and then I mean, it creates an interesting dynamic from one side, but this dynamic also is less deflationary and more inflationary, because then you can always keep chances to propagate. And we know that other platforms have had challenges with having too much, let's say, inflation versus deflation. So I think that the existing limit, even though it might limit people to take some tough choices with and on when to breed their horses, etc., we feel that this is generally speaking better for the, let's say, reasonable growth rate versus the chance to actually stack and test and try and preserve, etc. So it kind of introduces that when actually some people are considered the other way around, that even with this there might be too much propagation, etc. So it's interesting, but I think for now the game theory tells us that it is not recommendable. Though it's always interesting to look at this, and maybe one time, at some point in time, this would be a change that is healthy or helpful. Um, will descriptions be allowed for sale posted in marketplace? This is another marketplace question. So I refer to the past answer on marketplaces not being immediately in our site as of the most recent Let's update. It is interesting that comments and data are added. I would say any third-party marketplace could take up this concept, and until we at some point in time take up this project, if it's ever interesting, or if there's a third-party marketplace that is willing, for example, to do an integration that makes sense for all parties, etc., this could be interesting development as well. Not completely closing the door, but our own first-party marketplace is for now not in the immediate plans. Oh, that was the end. So thank you for your questions, and tune again. Join us in 2 weeks. I am checking Discord. We might have
Whoa,
missed
whoa, whoa! We have one question
question.
in YouTube by Troy. He said, "How will it work to be able to stud in your own stable?" So basically, you just go directly to the breeding transaction. It'll be your stallion, your mare, without the breeding voucher in there. It'll be the same thing, but it saves you from emitting a voucher and then using it yourself, which is kind of dumb. So it'll be directly the breeding transaction, but it will count towards your limit of 5 per month, of course. So you're not like simply like getting an extra breeding for free, but it's a simplified transaction.
Yeah, there's comment here. The jockey club in real life intentionally has a rule against frozen sperm or race horses or live cover, so they actually have to physically be introduced. It's one of the reasons I first even didn't like having vouchers or coupons, but then eventually realized that the benefits outweigh, I would say, the realism, as long as we can still perform the same function. As much as I like it to be as purest as possible, in the end we are dealing with digital horses. Um, there is a question on Discord from Lam. So read this. So if the game, let me read this here. I'm sorry, I'm actually reading from my phone just because it's immediately in front of me. If the game marketplace is not going to be ready when the game is released, the issue of how stallion owners charge and get paid for their stallion services needs to be addressed. I think we already explained this with the coupons. Suggested minting of coupons is a workaround that could work despite not being the most elegant of solutions. Yes, but also it depends on how we handle that interface. I think the clunkiness could be minimized with good design and implementation. A related issue that has become prevalent in the current marketplace is the use of snapping bots. In my opinion, these bots have a double negative. They eliminate the possibility of someone without one picking up a bargain, and they punish the seller who is either ignorant of the value of results. My preferred solution would be holding a monthly auction where a seller decides on a reserve. Once the reserve is met, the horse is on the market and is sold to the highest bidder. There is a bid during the final minute of the auction. The deadline is extended. The auction ends once the minute is passed without a bid. I don't know if it's feasible from a technical viewpoint, but would be interested to find out. You could be interested to know if many other owners hold this scenario. So this is actually a bunch of, I say a sequence of questions, but first of all, yes, the minting of coupons is a solution for stud or stallion owners. But then if you talk about sniping in general and their consequences, I would say um, this is more or less actually though a common challenge for all decentralized marketplaces or markets in general. The use of tools or the abuse of tools to gain a certain competitive advantage, unfortunately, you can only do so much to prevent.
Uh,
So,
Actually,
yeah,
it's not our responsibility. It's a free market, and if you want, like I answered this question in Discord with a little paragraph, but if you want to educate sellers so that they stop giving away their horses or their stud fees or whatever, you can try and do that. It's a free market. If you want to give people better education as to what they should do with their money and with their stuff, you can do that. But it's not our responsibility to play with the market in that sense. Like the market is a free market. If people are messing up, that's really sad. If people with bots are winning, then maybe either buy a bot or try to get marketplaces to prevent bots from winning. But it's a free thing. It's like what people do outside of equine is really hard to manage. We could do or have somebody come in and educate people as to maybe what's a better behavior, but like after that it's up to them to choose what they want to do. And if they want to sell it really really low because they need liquidity now, nobody can judge that. I mean, it's kind of the point of NFTs, right? It's your own and you do what you want. Sorry, Fahad.
no, no, it's a good comment. I would say educating people is already part of the ecosystem. I'm very happy that our community is already has been working on that hard, and including JPS with his spreadsheets, including many other members who have been always happy to share what is the market estimated value. For example, obviously that's not something we step into. We let the market do what the market wants to do. But this kind of education, I think, already exists. So we're thankful for that being there. Then the onus really is on the owner to know what they have and what they feel is fair and attractive. There's a few more questions. Orocum asks, will the horns be fixed to actually look like horns? Rest assured, you are probably person number 4 or 5 who's waiting for this to be fixed. So we're aware. Um, Technically, it is a very simple fix. It's just that we've had bigger beasts to slay, so maybe this means that we need to do this sooner because it's simple, but it's simply a texture fix to the image. So it is not really a very difficult fix. Excuses for taking this long, but it should not be a difficult one to fix. So we do that. When choosing a race for a horse, it would be helpful if we had notes on its preferences visible on screen. This is actually, I would say, again, a game design question. It depends. We look at the different again games in the genre just to kind of compare. I think it depends on whether we see it as we want to do maximum hand holding and features, or whether we want to do minimum of that and let people really do what they feel like. So it's a quality of life thing. I would say for a new game, I would imagine that we'll be building up the features, these kind of, let's say, quality of our features. But then eventually, or ultimately, I would say, in the end game or a few years down the lane, you'll find the platform being much more customized with more features of quality of life, of shortcuts, etc. Just bear in mind that when we release the first, let's say, version, then it would need to have the absolute essential. I see we're gonna have to go just to say goodbye to Mark. So have a good night, Mark. Thanks for joining us. Um, there was a question. So yeah, notes and preferences. I would say if it does happen, it would be in a future version. But we don't want to, let's say, overload ourselves with quality of life features when there is an absolute necessity to first release and make sure it is stable. So that's one. If a horse is raised for its entire life, will it receive benefit from training in its declining years? If yes, will the degree of benefit reduce as it ages? In general, is training benefit random? So yeah, there's a training benefit being random. I would say there is I already kind of alluded a little bit to that. There is a random part to it. Whether it's completely random or not, that is a different question. Um, will it receive from benefit from training declining years? Yes, it would be a separate bracket or a separate, let's say, bonus that you get. And basically, a trained horse with equal stats to an untrained horse without that training. How do I say this word? Basically, an untrained horse, if the base stats were equal between two horses, then a trained horse should have an advantage over an untrained one because their DNA or physical stats are the same. But then one is trained, so that should have an advantage. So it would really tack on or add on to that, if that makes sense. I believe we have covered all the questions, unless we missed a few more, but I don't think so. So thank you so much, everyone. Always happy to have you around. This is one of the longer town halls, but I think it was very positive and vibrant. It was also very enjoyable, I think, the new format. So thanks to those who suggested and also helped make it happen. So we look forward to the next one on the 22nd of January. So we'll see you guys soon for the next town hall, and we look forward to bringing you more news and more updates on our development progress. Thank you so much. This is Fahad Dukin signing out.